Well, a fine good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman.
Welcome to the Mahoning County Board of Elections. It's about 7 minutes after 8. It's Friday, the 13th, August 2021. This meeting is called to order. The director, please call the roll.
Mr. Monroe.
Here.
Ms. Barger.
Here.
Mr. Barger. Mr. Wasco.
Here.
Mr. Beatrice.
Present.
Before we begin, if we could just take a moment of silence and reflection to reflect on the many blessings of liberty and the role that free and fair elections play in keeping our country strong. And if you would rise and please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. The meeting minutes from the July 6th regular meeting have been distributed. If there are no changes or corrections, if there could be a motion to suspend the rules and adopt the minutes as presented without reading.
So moved.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Director, call the roll.
Mr. Monroe.
Yes.
Mrs. Barger.
Yes.
Mr. Wasco.
Yes.
Mr. Beatrice.
Yes.
Now, one of the meetings why we delayed this meeting until this time was so that we could certify the nonpartisan candidates to the fall general election. Joyce, you want to review those for us?
Yes, sir. We have some that have some issues that you want to review. This is Youngstown School, Jessica Walter Rosario. She needs 150. She has 123.
So pretty straightforward.
Pretty straightforward.
Is there a motion to disqualify Ms. Rosario due to a lack of signatures?
I so moved.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Director, call the roll.
Mr. Monroe.
Yes.
Mrs. Barger.
Yes.
Mr. Wasco.
Yes.
Mr. Beatrice.
Yes.
This is Tyrone Peaks II. He needed 150. He has 137.
What position is that for?
School board, I'm
School
sorry.
board as well.
Not school board, yes.
Move to disqualify.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second to disqualify Mr. Peaks II due to insufficient signatures. Any discussion? Director, call the roll.
Mr. Monroe.
Yes.
Mrs. Barger.
Yes.
Mr. Wasco.
Yes.
Mr. Beatrice.
Yes.
This is for Austin Town Schools, Patrick Bokish. She needed 25. She has 24 valid. And we
Close.
checked it 3 times.
Is there, this is Patrick, yeah, is there a motion to disqualify Mr. Bokish due to insufficient signatures?
I'll make a motion to disqualify Focus for lack of signatures.
Second.
Discussion? Director, call the roll.
Mr. Monroe.
Yes.
Mrs. Barger.
Yes.
Mr. Wasco.
Yes.
Mr. Beatrice.
Yes.
This is for Craig Beach Village Council, Joshua Auden. His nominating section was not filled out properly. Is Danny in the room? Is this the one where he went outside and filled?
He came in, it was not filled out, he left the office, came back, about 2 hours later or an hour, and it was filled out.
With a different color pen.
Yeah, it's a different color pen.
So it wasn't filled out when he first came to file. And then he was advised, and then he left and filled it out and came back.
So the nominating portion of the petition was blank.
Yes. Well, yes, until he came back.
So the
Yeah.
circumstantial evidence is that it wasn't filled out when the signatures were garnered. Is that correct?
That's correct.
I move to disqualify.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Discussion? Director, call the roll.
Mr. Monroe.
Yes.
Mrs. Barger.
Yes.
Mr. Wasco.
Yes.
Mr. Beatrice.
Yes, but on that vote, I just want the record to be clear that he came in, the nominating portion was blank, he left, came back 2 hours later with the same petition filled out. So if we get reviewed by a court, that is the reason. There's no way he could have gotten that many signatures in that period of time.
This is Jackson Township trustee Jonathan Jamison, sort of the same issue. He came in, his nominating petition was not filled out, he filled it out at the counter in front of Danny.
Yeah.
So the public knows, can I say something, Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Beatrice?
So the public knows, when you circulate petitions, it has to be filled out prior to obtaining signatures. Elsewise, people don't know what they're signing a petition for. It's very simple, and it's the law. I move to disqualify.
I'll second.
Any discussion? I also note that when, candidates have the benefit of the candidate's handbook, I think Dandy does a terrific job at the counter when prospective candidates come in. She cautions them, she advises them, and it is a little, I think in this case, this was a candidate that I think just downloaded petitions online and printed them at home, which is okay, but they might also take time to print the candidate's guide as well.
Correct.
Anyway, there's a motion, there's a second, any other discussion? Director call the roll?
Mr. Monroe?
Yes.
Mrs. Barger?
Yes.
Mr. Wasco?
Yes.
Mr. Beatrice?
Yes.
This is Boardman Township's trustee Paul Hugenberg. One part petition was not signed by the candidate. Did he sign that at the counter, Danny?
Yes.
He signed the one part petition. We would alleviate that petition and not give him enough signatures.
Okay, once again, for the public, the candidate must sign the petition prior to it being circulated, so he's verifying that he saw, or that everyone knows, that that's his petition and his signature. I move to disqualify.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Also under discussion, I note that in some cases, the law speaks about strict compliance or substantial compliance. And as it relates to the petitions being signed prior to their circulation, the law specifically requires strict compliance, that they must be signed. It's not something that we really have any discretion over. And,
And the 7th District Court of Appeals ruled in Beatrice versus the Mahoning County Board of Elections that is a strict requirement. In case anyone wants to know who made the law,
May I speak?
but you'd have to ask him.
So I'm Paul Hugenberg, that's my petition.
yes,
So just for clarification for me, this is my first time running, I'll probably do it again. So I printed off 2 petitions because the petitions don't have enough space for 25.
sure.
And when I went to the door, both petitions were together. The people that signed it were given the petition that was signed, asked to read it, note my signature, and then they flipped the page and signed the first open space. So these weren't given out to circulators. They weren't done absent and separate from each other. They were together. And so, to Member Beatrice's point, everybody that signed it read the petition and was given my signature before they signed it. There were just 2 there.
The problem is the one petition didn't have your signature on it when they were signing it.
I understand. I was just going to give some clarification so that there's a little
And
bit of context to it.
I had the same thing happen to me when I ran for precinct committeeman back in the 80s.
94, War 94 it was.
Was it the war in
It was the War of
94?
94.
So I took my case all the way up to Court of Appeals and they said, nope. So I know that to be the case because I got burned by the same thing.
Yeah, the petitions are not designed to be separated. They're designed to be a single instrument. And,
I know what he's saying. In other words, he's
Yeah.
saying, I had the top petition on, had my signature, I flipped the page, and they signed it. The problem is the petition they signed didn't have your signature on it. And there's a bright line in the law about that.
Yeah, I
I
understand.
know, it seems like a technical thing, but I did the same, mine was a very technical thing, and they booted me off. I took it up to the Court of Appeals, and they upheld the board's decision. I mean, like the chairman said, there are just some things that, they seem petty, but they're strict. You have to do it. That's what the law says.
any other discussion? There's a motion, there's a second. The director call the roll?
Mr. Monroe?
Yes.
Mrs. Barger?
Yes.
Mr. Wasco?
Yes.
Mr. Beatrice?
Yes.
The next one is for Canfield Mayor Catherine Young. She lacks the number of signatures. She has 48 ballots, she needed 50. And we checked it 3 times.
Move to disqualify.
I'll second.
There is a motion that Catherine Young that her petitions be disqualified due to lack of signatures. Any discussion? Director, call the roll.
Mr. Monroe?
Yes.
Mrs. Barger?
Yes.
Mr. Wasco?
Yes.
Mr. Beatrice?
Yes.
The next petition is for Camel Second Ward Jeffrey Openkar. Mr. Openkar did not fill out the nominating portion of the petition before he circulated. There is a letter from Mr. Openkar to the board explaining the issue.
Joyce, did we deal with this?
Yes, we dealt with that.
Last meeting.
Yes, with the mayor of Youngstown, with the candidate who was mayor of Youngstown. White,
White, Mr. White.
Mr. White, he did not do the same, he did not, the issue was the same.
Yeah, but didn't we vote on this last time?
Open.
That's
Well,
already-
not this one, we did not
Not
vote
this
on.
one.
Okay.
We voted on Mr. White last time.
I moved.
No, excuse me,
Yeah.
Joyce. Mr. Openkar was not certified at the last meeting. He
Right.
is asking the board to revisit it.
Right.
Yeah,
Because
But we did vote not to certify.
Mr.
Right.
White, the last election, we,
Yes,
the last board
yeah.
meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I move we not revisit it. We've already looked and decided.
That's the letter saying.
Well, just as a, let me just read this, it's a very brief letter. It's addressed to Danielle. My intention was to come down to speak to the board, but this time was tough and work issues would not allow me to get away this morning. I would like the board to know that I am very sorry for any inconvenience this may cause, but I would still like them to reconsider my petition for second ward council for the city of Camel. That's right, this was a Camel issue, so it was
Right,
the early primary.
right.
I love my city and want to be a part of the future. The people of my ward contacted me wanting a new outlook on our city, which I feel I can provide. I had 50 neighbors sign my petition, wanting me to run, and I would just like the opportunity to give them what they want. Please reconsider your decision and allow me to represent my hometown.
I move that we not reconsider it, that it was considered at the last board meeting. It's a technical violation that's fatal.
There is a motion, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion?
And this does fall under the fatal. Mr. Chairman.
Well, this relates again to the nominating petition. When you review the statute, the law speaks to substantial compliance when completing the nominating portion of the petition. But this is not an example. This is an example of non-compliance,
Yeah.
in my opinion. I think substantial compliance indicates that, hey, if he uses the wrong middle initial or something, or he gets
Or
the
they
date wrong,
put Youngstown or Boardman or
if
something like
there's
that.
some minor thing like that,
Or the election.
those are the kinds of things that we could overlook. But I'm concerned, it's non-compliance.
Right.
And I think that when voters sign petitions, they should clearly understand what it is they're signing. I think Mr. Beatrice would agree.
Unfortunately, I love people that want to run for office. I think that's wonderful. And we really don't make it that hard to get on the ballot. I mean, it's a low bar. I mean, if you can't even get over that bar, I don't know what to say. I mean, these are things that we're mandated to follow. I wished I could let him on the ballot. I wished I could let this gentleman run for trustee. But unfortunately, we took an oath to follow the laws, and I don't see we have a choice.
There's a motion, there's a second, any other discussion? Director call the roll?
Mr. Monroe?
Yes.
Mrs. Barger?
Yes.
Mr. Wasco?
Yes.
Mr. Beatrice?
Yes, unfortunately.
The next one is a liquor auction for Bruno Brothers, Boardman 21. They needed 117 signatures, they have 79.
Another close call.
Yep. Yeah.
Move to not certify. Did they hire someone to do that, or did they do it on their own?
They,
I don't know.
they did it on their own.
That's the reason why.
There's a motion to disqualify the the liquor option petition for Bruno Brothers. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion? Director call the roll?
Mr. Monroe?
Yes.
Mrs. Barber?
Yes.
Mr. Wasco?
Yes.
Mr. Beatrice?
Yes.
That's it?
Then, we do need to certify the remaining candidates.
Is there someone that, if I can ask, filed petitions to run as a write-in Youngstown?
Yeah, we don't have to certify right in. And they have, I think till the 25th, 24th or 25th to file.
Yeah.
Well, write-ins still need to fulfill the residency requirement.
Right,
Sure, they would have to have the necessary.
By the Youngstown Charter.
and we
Yes.
checked those.
Okay,
Yeah.
just, I
And,
just want to
and
make
and I
sure.
know who you're talking about, and they did.
Very good.
Okay.
Is there a motion to certify to the fall ballot the other nonpartisan candidates whose petitions have been found to be valid and sufficient?
I'll make some motion.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Director call the roll?
Mr. Monroe?
Yes.
Mrs. Barber?
Yes.
Mr. Wasco?
Yes.
Mr. Beatrice?
Yes.
We also have a number of questions and issues that have been filed to appear on the ballot. Any issues with those, Joyce?
No, just put the corruptions. The question is, no. They're fine.
Where, is there a list of those?
On the very back
It's
page,
on-
Dave.
it's on the next to the last page.
Can I just have a moment to review this,
Sure.
please?
There are, including the Moline County Sales Tax, the MCDDD, Alliance City School District, Campbell City Police and Fire, Campbell Street Resurfacing Program, Canfield City Police Renewal, Cardinal Fire District Operating, Struthers City, Change Term of Office, Austintown Streets, Roads and Bridges, Austintown Senior Citizen Services, Boardman Current Expense Renewal, Green Township Current Expense Renewal, Lowville Police Additional, Lowville Fire Additional, Lowville Local General Permanent Improvements Additional, Poland Township Current Expenses, Poland Village Police Department, Poland Village Emergency Requirements, Poland Local Permanent School Improvements, Milton Township Fire, Sebring Fire Renewal, Sebring Recreational Renewal, Sebring Village Park and Recreational, Springfield Township Fire, Springfield Township Current Expenses, and Western Reserve Local.
Is that a typo, avoid? What does that mean?
I guess it's a
Being
tax
used
levy to avoid an operating deficit, apparently.
Avoiding an operating deficit, is that
Okay.
Western
Yes.
Reserve?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've never seen an issue look like that. That's how they're allowed to do
Yeah,
it?
avoiding an operating deficit, yeah.
I move to certify all these.
I'll second it.
Is there any discussion? Director call the roll?
Mr. Monroe?
Yes.
Mrs. Barber?
Yes.
Mr. Wasco?
Yes.
Mr. Beatrice?
Yes.
And finally, liquor options.
I move to certify all those.
Except for the one that has been disqualified.
That's correct.
Bruno Brothers. There's a motion, is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Director call the roll?
Mr. Monroe?
Yes.
Mrs. Barber?
Yes.
Mr. Wasco?
Yes.
Mr. Beatrice?
Yes.
Okay, moving on to the director's report.
Well, we have 3 memorials, and these are memorials that continue from 2020.
Oh, they go back that far,
They go
huh?
back that far. I pay a moral and legal obligation to Triad Governmental Systems for $353.16. That's for their mailing service to mail our notice of reports, cancellations to voters, asking them to return to us if they're still living there at the address they're at.
I move we pay the moral obligation.
I'll second.
That's to Triad Governmental Services for $353.16. Any discussion? Director call the roll?
Mr. Monroe?
Yes.
Mrs. Barber?
Yes.
Mr. Wasco?
Yes.
Mr. Beatrice?
Yes.
The next is to pay a moral and legal obligation to Triad Governmental Systems this actually occurred this year. This is, Jose from Triad came in and did some 3-day training for our staff to bring us up to date with what Triad has implemented in the last year to make life easier for us when we do things. It was really a very good, it handled the poll workers, it handled locations, it handled dates on the calendar, and it also did registrations and it did a whole thing on absentees, so.
I move that we pay the moral and legal obligation to Triad for $3,005.50.
I'll second it.
Under discussion? So Jose was here.
Yes, Jose was here, yep.
Did he sing?
No, he did not sing this one.
Just checking.
I have Diane who can sing.
There's a motion and there's a second. Director, call the roll.
Mr. Monroe?
Yes.
Mrs. Barber?
Yes.
Mr. Wasco?
Yes.
Mr. Beatrice?
Yes.
This is actually one left from last year. As you know, when I got the machines, I got a $165,000 rebate on our old machines. So $65,000 of what we owed ES&S was paid, but the $70,000 was not paid. So we owe them $70,000 from last year, which sent me over the edge, but
I have a question. How does a $70,000 bill not go through the regular course?
because the person doing the bills did not process the invoices,
And who was that?
John Blue.
So, this is very disturbing to me as a board member. I could see how 3,000 or 300 can slip through the cracks. 70,000 should never slip through our cracks.
No.
We're not doing the taxpayers justice when that big of a bill isn't processed in the normal course
Well, we
of
did not
business.
even know about this bill until ES&S contacted us. That's what happened when John was paying the bills. We didn't know until the vendor started contacting Tom and I, and then we went over the edge on that one. It was just mind-boggling. Actually, Lorraine Shortino has caught up with all the bills, and she's doing an excellent job. We have nothing that has to be paid.
Oh,
She's
she's a
paid
good
monthly.
employee, is she?
Yes, she is. And so that's where, that's where we stand with this one. But it is a concern, and Tom and I now are very watchful. This will never happen again on the bill paying.
Yeah, that whole episode is coming to an end, I think.
I'll make a motion to pay the moral obligation to election services and software for $70,138.45.
Second.
Any more discussion? Director, call the roll?
Mr. Monroe?
Yes.
Mrs. Barber?
Yes.
Mr. Wasco?
Yes.
Mr. Beatrice?
Abstain.
Let's see. Under unfinished business, I've got some unfinished business that I'd like to bring up. Recently, we had not a resignation. Dante Lewis left the board. He took a job as the deputy director up in Lake County, and good for him.
Yes.
Bad for us.
Bad for us. But I would like to propose that we consider filling that vacancy at this time with a fellow by the name of James Malarkey. I've got copies of his resume I'd like to distribute.
Is that a Republican seat?
Yes.
Well, then I'm going to defer to my Republican members, and if that's their recommendation, then I'll move that we hire James Malarkey.
Anything else you want to say, Mark?
Sure, but that can be under discussion.
I'll second the motion.
Okay. Under discussion, I'd just like to give you a quick summary about James' background. He's a graduate of Canfield High School, and when he graduated, he was voted most likely to be president by his graduating class. He has a Bachelor of Arts degree in political science from YSU, where he graduated with honors. He's currently serving as the assistant manager at the Village Sparkle Market in Cornersburg. And interestingly, in 2013, he received the Boy Scouts' most highest award. He was awarded he became an Eagle Scout in 2013. And Tom and I have known him for a number of years as a volunteer, and we both think very highly of James. we think he'll be a great addition to the staff.
He's Irish.
Is that a
Well-
problem, Joyce?
Yes,
I,
that's a good thing.
As the law mandates that the political parties have even representation working at the board, I'm going to defer to the Republican board members, and if they like him, then I like him. So I move that we, oh, I already moved.
You've already made a motion, Mr. Beatrice.
Yeah, I second.
Also, the law does not require that the staff be evenly divided between Republicans. That is not a matter of law.
Well,
But it
it's-
is certainly a matter of past
course.
practice. And we think it's a good policy. Is there any other discussion?
I call the question.
Director, call the roll.
Mr. Monroe,
Yes.
Mrs. Barber,
Yes.
Mr. Roscoe.
Yes.
Mr. Beatrice.
Yes.
And I would
Yes
just
to
add that
Malarkey.
Mr. Malarkey was prepared to give his 2-week notice on Monday, so I would anticipate that he could start no later than 2 weeks from Monday, possibly earlier if the circumstance would permit.
Can he come in, Tom, to see us so we can go over the
Yeah,
job
come in Monday.
specification?
He said he'll come in Monday and
Okay,
receive the vote for us.
okay.
Good. Any new business to consider?
Yes, I am actually in the process of finishing up the state auditor's review of the Board of Elections for 2020. It's going very well. He's asked for a few minor things that, I didn't provide for him at the beginning, but that should be finished up by next week. So, he's about 12 years old. He's doing our review. He's so young. He looks so young. But
But he's older than 12.
he's older than 12, but boy, Doogie Howser, that's what he looks like. So, but I think that we're gonna be fine. Everything is compliant for 2020, so we should be okay.
Joyce, to us, everyone looks 12.
To me, yeah. That's true. That's it for me.
Any board communications to report?
None that you haven't addressed, Mr. Chairman.
Anything for the good of the order? Any public comment this morning?
I have a comment.
Mr. Beatrice?
I find it personally disgusting, the attack that the former president has made on our election system. I find it personally disgusting what is happening in the state of Arizona with the seizing of machines. And this all splashes onto all of us. And it casts dispersions on free and fair elections. And if we don't have free and fair elections, we don't have a democracy. And I just want it known that we follow the law. This board runs free and fair elections, but you don't get near a hand grenade or get near a skunk and not take shrapnel. And that is definitely splashing over onto every board of election in every county, in every state. And I just think it's disgusting that my reputation, this board's reputation, and the reputations of elections in general are being impugned by crazy Hugo Chavez conspiracy flip the vote theories, and that a large majority of the base of the GOP thinks that something went wrong with the election, and that's not good. And I just find it, disgusting, and I just want to make it public that Donald Trump did not win the election. Joe Biden won it fair and square. There was not massive scale fraud. And for anyone to say or believe otherwise is impugning my reputation as a member of this board. That's all I want to say.
Well, let me inform the board that there is a letter circulating through the state of Ohio from an organization to the county commissioners, asking them to review the policies of the boards of elections, all boards of elections. And it really is an issue because they're saying that the voting machines that we have can be connected to the internet. Ours cannot be connected to the internet. Nothing we have can be connected to the internet. So it is an issue that's going to be coming up. I think the Secretary of State will address it. I really do. I think he's not going to,
I hope
We
so.
had the best election in the country. I mean, Ohio was very, done very well, and it was, I don't think that anything, I do think the Secretary of State will address it.
I appreciate the Secretary of State. I appreciate his service to our country. I do not appreciate that he's not pushing back on the former president's bogus claims that there was wide-scale fraud that could have affected the presidential election. I think more people need to stand up on the other side of the aisle and say that Joe Biden was freely and fairly elected, and that somehow Donald Trump is not going to be magically reinstalled in August. That I just find it ludicrous. I find it a tilt towards autocracy, and I'm very worried about our election systems, and I'm going to be more diligent and more vocal than ever to let the people of Mahoney County know that we run free and fair elections, and we're as transparent as anyone. And anyone can come in and review our board, review our manuals, review our people, review how we do things. And if I see, I've told people, I think I've been on the board now 10 years, and I was calculating probably 1.5 million votes over the 10 years. And we had one case of fraud that got prosecuted. So we never get people that want to vote. It's just the opposite. We can't get people to vote. That seems to be the bigger problem than the fraud that's occurring. I mean, I sitting on this board, I only know of one case of actual fraud out of 1 million votes. It wouldn't even register on a percentile range. And to suggest that there's fraud going on here, it's just ludicrous. And I just don't see people, members of the Board of Elections, standing up and saying, no, we know how this works. I know how this works. I don't know how they seize voting machines in Arizona and then have an independent company that doesn't run elections audit them. I don't know how that went down. I just don't understand that.
Well, one of the great things about the United States is we are a collection of 50 states, and we know how elections work in Ohio. We can speak about Ohio. We can't vouch for everything that goes on in the other 49 states. I don't think the other 49 states do it as well as we do.
I don't think they do.
I think we do a lot of things that other states don't do. And I think that's one reason why there are concerns about some of the things that went wrong.
I don't think
Yeah.
anything went wrong. I think we're in the middle of a pandemic, and I don't think anything went wrong in the 2020 presidential election. And for the chairman to say things went wrong, that's how distrust in boards of election get germinated and watered. Nothing went wrong in the election. I totally disagree with that comment.
I've been doing elections for 30 years, Dave. I've never seen a perfect election, by the way.
I didn't say perfect. I said
Well,
nothing
it's-
went wrong that would have affected that presidential election. That was my statement.
Well, thanks for clarifying that, because occasionally things do go wrong. The good news is we've got great systems and good people to respond to those when they happen.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Mr.
Joyce,
White?
I'm not sure there's an election machine or a county that is connected to the internet in Ohio.
No, the Secretary of State forbids us to be
Right.
connected to the internet. We are not connected to the
Correct.
internet.
So, I mean,
Right. The only thing that could actually connect to the internet might be the poll books.
registration. Oh.
No, poll books at the polls, but they just register people to vote.
Right.
They don't count any.
Yeah, but our voter rolls are connected to the internet, correct?
Yes.
So.
Well, but those are all backed up by we're backed up with the county, we're backed up with the state, and we're backed up with Triad, so we have three.
And we have strong firewall. I mean,
Yeah, we have a
I
very
wouldn't
strong
want someone to be able to hack and take people off the voter rolls.
No,
That's-
we are one of the most secure counties for that issue because of our IT department. We cannot be hacked.
Well,
And
don't
we-
say
we
that. The
personally-
Pentagon got
We
hacked,
personally cannot be, well, it would be pretty tough for us because we have so many cyber things on our computers.
This is why we let people vote provisionally, in case something like that happens. We can always double check the backup system, and I would hope that if someone goes to vote and they say, oh, you're not registered, that we look at the backup system before.
Well, we vote them anyway, we vote them provisionally.
That's what I'm saying, we vote them provisionally, and then we look at the backup system
Right.
just in case that does happen.
Anything else? Any other comment?
Hold on.
Yes.
I have a couple questions. Excuse me. One, does the board anticipate changing any polling locations in the county before the November election?
I might change two. In Sebring, Heritage Manor, it was sold, so I have to deal with the new people who have bought Heritage Manor. And then the other one is in Beaver Township. No other polling locations are going to be changed at this time.
Okay, and those people will receive
Yes.
adequate
Oh,
notice?
they'll
Okay.
receive notification, yes. We're going to go to one single place in Beaver Township. I just have to work out the contract with the first, the place. But that would be it.
All right, I appreciate that. And the other question is, does the board keep, I'm sure you do, data on your demographics of employees? So how many employees you have, how many
Yes.
male, female, how many are white, non-white, African-American, Asian Pacific Islander, et cetera?
Yes.
So I can request that information and
Mhm.
you get, okay, thank you.
Anything else? Our next regular meeting is set for 8 AM Tuesday, September the 7th, 2021. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I so move.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Director call the roll?
Mr. Monroe?
Yes.
Ms. Barber?
Yes.
Mr. Wasco?
Yes.
Mr. Beatrice?
Yes.
Thank you, everyone. We are adjourned.